Do you, oh, hi, Sue. Do you have any questions from the lower extremity muscles? I know, Guadalupe, you were looking for something. Did you find it? Or anybody else?
Well, I found mine. It was on the fibularis, on the lectures, the recorded lectures that you had recorded. I believe you on the lab work, I think it was 3 sections of the fibularis or something like that. I don't really have the work in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't explain like the fibularis, like the origin, insertion, and the action of the fibularis only. I know
Okay.
there's like 3 parts of the fibularis, but I
Yeah.
wanted to know if the main fibularis had a origin and stuff.
Yeah, let me go through that. That's actually a very, very interesting muscle. Can you see my PowerPoint? Yes, no? We're good? When I go down here in the lateral compartment of the, let's start with this. So there's the leg from the front. You have the outside here, that, or the top here by the bone is the tibialis anterior. And then you get into where the fibula is, and that's the fibularis area muscle. So the fibularis is also known as peroneus. So if you see the word peroneus, then that's the same muscle. So fibularis, peroneus is the same. Fibularis is just a more modern term. You have 3 levels to it. You have a longus, a brevis, and a tertius. And what's interesting about this muscle is they're all attached to the fibula. They're all attached here on the bone underneath here that you can't really see because it's covered by it. You can see the part in here where it attaches, but they're all attached by the fibula. The longus is on top, and then the brevis is a little bit further down, and then the tertius is very far down. And then when it comes to the insertion, the lower ones, the tertius and the brevis, they both go into the 5th metatarsal, which is the bump. There is a bump when you go down on your foot on the outside and you reach down, you feel a bump around here. That's where they go in. And then the longus is the one that starts on top. And what that one does is very interesting. That one goes and reaches underneath the foot and attaches on the medial side of the underside of the foot, on the sole of the foot. And so that muscle, when that muscle contracts, it really brings that foot laterally and holds it to the outside. And so what it does, it sort of prevents the foot from pushing over and twisting. You also have ligaments here that help with this, not twisting the ankle all the time, but the fibularis muscle is very important for that stability. And that's why it reaches to the underside of the foot. Does that make sense, Guadalupe?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have questions to the lower extremities, or was that pretty clear for you guys? JD and Sue.
I wanted to ask about the iliotibial band and how does that attach and relate to the gluteus maximus and the tensor fascia latae?
Okay. Very good question. I think this picture here is probably quite good with it. So you got the gluteus maximus in the back, and that's attached to the sacrum and a bit of the crest on top. And then it feeds down into the top part of the linea spur. Actually, there's a thing called the gluteal tuberosity where it fits into as well. And the IT band on the outside. And then the IT band is like a flat tendon. You can actually feel it on the side of your thigh, usually people can. And it pulls that muscle from the back, it anchors that in there, and then from the front of the hip we have the tensor fascia lata, that it anchors into the TFL as well. Actually, much more straight, but it comes from both sides, that tension. And then it, as a sort of a common tendon, a flat tendon, it goes and fits into the fibula on the outside. And so visually, you can sort of think of, if you want to pull your, if you want to abduct your leg, you want to bring it to the outside, you can see how these muscles have to pull on this band to push the, you know, to bring the thigh outward to the outside. Can you visualize that?
Yeah. So do they both attach to the band, the front and the back? Like the
They both
gluteus
come in,
maximus
yeah.
share
They
the
both,
band.
yeah, one from the front and one from the back.
I see.
The
Okay.
max from the front and the TFL from the back.
Okay.
There's
I
more
understand.
dynamics going on, but obviously, but that's one of the big dynamics that I like to point out.
Thank you.
All right, good, good, good. Anybody else? We have the TFL is one of the muscles that works on the femur. With the other muscles that we have working on the femur are the piriformis, the lateral rotator group. And then also the gluteus medius and minimus, the ones underlying the gluteus maximus, besides the TFL. Those bring the leg to the outside. The glute max also sort of extends the leg, brings it to the back. And then in the front of the thigh, of the pelvis, we have the psoas and the iliacus muscles that bring that flex the thigh, bring it forward. And then we also have muscles on the inside of the thigh, the adductors, and they bring the thigh, they adduct the thigh, they bring it back to the midline. And so that sort of covers those groups that I want to, the way I want to group them together for understanding. And also clinically, that's how I work with them in the clinic, to sort of figure out which motion is inhibited, which motion hurts, or which position hurts. And that gives me some ideas of how to figure that out when I group them in the functionality versus just having names to them. These red zones, I have these for all the muscles that I put up in the videos. They represent pain areas, and the X is where there is a pressure point that when we squeeze that and squeeze the blood out of that, pain in this area could cease, could go away, because these pressure points can give these pain regions, these pain areas. So that's interesting from that. That's why I put those up. And then the muscles that move the knee joint are also in the thigh. They are in the front of the thigh and the back of the thigh. So we'd have there the quadricep muscle in the front, and we have the hamstring muscles in the back. And the most motion we have in the knee is flexion extension. Very little rotation, very little. And then as it comes to the ankle, that's where we have those few compartments. Well, we first have the big group in the back, the plantar flexor group, the gastrocnemius and the soleus. And what they do is they push the foot into the ground. So they lift our weight up. So they're really strong muscles. They anchor into the calcaneus back here. That's why we started the calcaneus. And then besides that, in the leg, we have those three compartments, the one in the front that lifts the foot up, and then the one in the back that pushes the foot down, plantar flexes it. And then we have the lateral compartment that we just talked about. Both the front and the back compartment really have three muscles that we study. There's always more to it. There's all these muscles in the foot, deep, that move the toe around, but we have the three main ones is a tibialis, either a posterior or an anterior, and what that does is attaches to the heel area, to the carpal area, and at the tarsal area, and it lifts. It does motion from that end. It lifts the heel up a little bit when it does that, and then the other two muscles either go to the hallux, which is the big toe, or the four little toes. And in the posterior compartment, they push the toes down into the ground, and if you're looking at the anterior compartment, they're also here and here. They pull the toes upward. And that's really sort of the way I'd sort of look at the whole thing, you know, not looking at the specific attachments right now, the specific motions, but if I look at the lower extremities, that's sort of how I group them together. All right, does that make some sense?
Yes, thank you.
Good. Yeah, let's not get too, let's go right to this week's if there's no questions on that, because we're now going into week 9. So the test is going to be opening at the end of this week. If somebody wants to take it earlier, just shoot me a text and we can certainly accommodate that. But I want to leave the test open till the 24th. That way we have lab this week in person. We have some more time to go through these, especially these last muscles and the arm muscles too. They're a little complicated. And then we'll take the test after that. It's a fill in the blank test. So you type in the answers and you take all the answers from the term list that I've been giving you guys in the lab, but you can also find that in the test review laid behind here. Here's the term list right there. Also, to prep for the test, what's very good is you review these videos. That's well, I mean, if you're visual, you know, you don't need to utilize all the tools. I give you many different types of tools, so don't feel bad if you don't do everything, but just utilize what works for you. But for a lot of people, videos work, and so I just go through all the parts in these videos, and that's a very good review. So you have the term list next to you and watch those. And then the other thing I have, if you want to test yourself, I have a link to pictures of models, which are the models that the pictures for the test are from. If you look at the test itself, let me just see if I can show you an example of a question here. That way we get you familiarized with it. It's 54 questions. And I ask questions I ask for bones, those are whole bones. I ask for landmarks, those are parts of bones. And then I ask for muscles, so those 3 things. In every question, you have name this landmark, name this bone, name this muscle, and then you have a picture which has a label pointing to it, an arrow. And I also made a video that I point to, is like 15 seconds. And then here you got external links for both of those in case that, you know, your browser is different or so. Make sure you check your browser. I think Chrome works pretty well for all of that. Safari sometimes is a little bit goofy, but I think it's been working pretty well lately. You know, if there's technical problems, just reach out to me and we'll figure out how to fix those. You have 180 minutes. That's a long time. So you can really take your time for that test and be diligent about it and use it in some ways as a learning tool as well. So that's in terms of this muscle bone material that we finish up with this test too. And then from there, this coming week, we start now with the heart and blood vessels, and then cardiovascular system, and then immune system, and then we move forward slowly move us towards the brain and towards the neurology, and we do a little bit of time there. But the heart is also pretty important and pretty cool. Of course, it makes us live and survive. So we have a whole section on the heart where we talk about the anatomy. We have pictures with videos. We talk, look at that, there's a whole bunch of stuff. We talk about the chambers, how the heart works, the electricity in it, and so forth. So it's quite cool chapter and cool stuff. Different now, more visceral organs, so a little bit less anatomy, a little bit more how it works, not all these muscle names. So we have these quizzes or these questions that and that kind of go through the material again, so you can take those over and over and work the material. You have videos in those as well. Besides the heart, we're also looking at the blood vessels as well this week. We have a labeling exercise for the heart. We do not have one for the blood vessels. And not going too heavy into the anatomy of the vessels, because often they're named by regions, they're named by muscle areas where they travel through. And so I have them listed in the material. So take screenshots of that, learn from that, but I'm not testing you on it in terms of the anatomy on that. We have plenty of material. So there's a labeling on the heart, but not the vessels. And then we also have, how did the injury prevention stuff go for you guys? Did you do that yet? Anybody?
Yeah, I did it.
Was it all right?
It was very long.
I know, I'm sorry, no. Was the timeline I gave you too little, or was it okay when I said how long it is?
It was perfect, yeah.
Oh, okay, good, because I know we got to fill the time, but hopefully you learned something. And this is an exercise. This evaluation is an orthopedic one. It's just doesn't use machines and stuff, but it's very indicative and it's used very widely in the sports arena to make sure we don't injure ourselves. So, take what you can out of those things. But we'll have a little discussion on that. And then finish that topic off. And then this week, what we're starting with a pathology project. What I'm going to have in the latter part of this class, besides material, we have pathology project, and then we're also doing some dissections in the classroom. We don't do the dissections at home, so you only get the dissections if you're in the classroom. That's one of the perks coming into the classroom, feeling those tissues and how it works that way. It's very cool, that stuff. But we are also doing a pathology project, and that's an online thing. We're joining groups. We're making groups of 3 people. We're doing that this week. So in here, do you have a little explanation that you go to people here, and then you go to pathology project, and then in there you go and you add yourself to one of the groups. You can look at your classmates in people and see what their bio is, to see if you want to join, work with certain people together, or if you have friends in the classroom, in the class, you do work together. That's no problem at all. But once we join that group, then next week we start choosing a pathology, and you guys in the group choose what you want to do. So it's really, you have a lot of freedom. You can run it by me. Back pain, cancers, anxiety, all kind of stuff. We can research what is interesting to you. Because what I want you to do then, I want you to research the pathology a little bit and explain and gather information from websites. You use, hopefully good websites, .org, .edu, but also Wikipedia is a good website. There's nothing wrong with Wikipedia to get a starter. And then you create a little PowerPoint presentation and explain to the group what the pathology is that you're discussing or that you're researching. That is here. Then also you describe a little bit what conventional medicine does to treat that pathology, to work with that. And then thirdly, I want you to reflect and do some research on what you can do individually, that is not like from the medical doctors prescribed as medicine and so forth, to help the pathology. The reason why I started that project is when I had some students and I realized that they didn't, for example, know that the kids who have asthma could be helped by eating less milk products and less carb stuff, wheat stuff, and that there is an inflammation component and an allergic reaction component to those things as well. And all that she got from the doctor was albuterol for the kid as a thing. I thought, well, we got to take this a little further and help each other out with some of these things, because a lot of pathologies is not, you can do a lot yourself to also help it. It's not just like that you don't have any power over those things of how the pathology goes. So I want you to do a little bit of research there. And so we're making groups of 3 people, and each person takes one of those questions and does research and makes a presentation, and finally then makes a 2-3 minute, very short. I want you to be concise in this project. I don't want you to have I wanted to explain something and learn how to explain something in a brief period and be as, you know, as bring an idea over to the classmates as well as possible. And then at the end, we'll, you know, critique each other a little bit, make a video, make a Zoom video, and then critique each other's videos a little bit and give each other some tips how we are and what's going on, and, you know, how we can make it a little bit better. But usually it's a project that people like pretty well. The first step here, week 1, is a 6-week project, more or less. Week 1 is we choose. After this week, when we choose a group, then we choose a pathology within the group. That's week 1. And then week 2, 3, we're making a presentation, sort of a draft. And then you ship me that and I'll critique it. I'll give you some feedback. And then you make a revision. And then at the end of the next couple weeks, so that's a month long here, then you make a voiceover presentation. And then lastly, in the last week of the course, I think, more or less, we have this little discussion where we watch each other's and talk about it a little bit and help each other out to make it better next time. Or I'm sure, I mean, first we're gonna help each other, praise each other how good we've been doing, because usually those presentations come out really well. People do a really good job. All right, so that's what we're having on as a extra thing we're doing in this laser part of the course. Does that make some sense, or is that like completely not understandable?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, so we can leave it at that for now. And again, the first step this week is just to join a group. And you do that by going to people, and within there you can choose the pathology project, and there you take a group. And then next week we start sort of with the whole thing, really. If you haven't chosen a group by the weekend, I'll just assign you guys to groups. That way we can keep moving in the project. And, you know, we'll stay in communication about those things. Sometimes I have some students who don't participate that well, so we'll make sure we'll cheer each other on as well as possible. All right, so that's basically what this week looked like. It's not too heavy. Well, I shouldn't say that. The heart and the blood vessel is certainly something to learn there. We'll finish up with the questions and tips. And I think that's about it. Good. Any questions to any of that?
I wanted to ask a quick question about the injury prevention assignment. We were asked about the anti-gravity muscles. Can you clarify what the anti-gravity muscles are?
When we go to, where the heck was my lower extremities? I thought I had them up. Oh, here we go. When we look at the body, and gravity pushes down, right? When you drop something, it falls to the ground. And so we need muscles that hold us up so we don't fall down. Because if we just have a skeletal system, we'll fall down. And so the muscles in the back of the pelvis, they push the hip downward, they push the femur downward, and so therefore they will be anti-gravity muscles and hold the hip up against gravity in this joint. When we then look at the quads in the front here, they straighten out the knee, so they prevent the knee from buckling under gravity. And then lastly, when you look at the bottom, you're looking at the calf muscles here. And what they do is they also, if they don't contract, our foot would fall down. We would fall down this way because they hold the leg up this direction. So this angle doesn't buckle under gravity. And so the anti-gravity muscles are the ones in the back of the butt. They hold the hip straight, the front of the thigh, they hold the knee straight, and the calf, the back of the calf, and they hold the foot straight. Okay.
Does that include the erector spinal muscle as well?
Not in technically not because we're trying to not really use them. We're trying to balance the spine posturally by balancing it in gravity. And
Okay,
so we have a position where we can have that muscle not really engage or trying not to engage, which is not always easy. So very often we do use them though they don't buckle. But technically speaking, we have the ability to balance without them having to contract. The thigh muscles, the quads and the gastroc area, the triceps surae, those have to contract in order for us not to buckle and fall down.
I see. Okay, so just the legs is the main. Wow.
Yeah, and the interest in there is really, when we get old and we cannot contract those anymore and we cannot stand up and withstand gravity, that's when it becomes a technical, a pathological challenge.
Okay, I see.
And
Thank
that's
you.
not happening in the back, right? That part. Good. No, that very, very good question. Made me think a little bit. Anybody else have a questions to this stuff? No? Good. Well, if something shows up during the week or so, just reach out, shoot me a text, and we can talk about it. And hopefully I'll see some of you guys in class. And with that, I wish you a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there going to be lab today too?
Yes.
Okay. See you then.
See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.